So, before we can get started on congruent triangles, we need to define what congruent triangles mean. Does anybody have an idea what congruent triangles mean? All the same what? Angles. All the same what? Shape. All the same what? Side. Okay, so congruency actually means this. It doesn't mean equal. Okay, it doesn't mean equal. Congruence does not mean equal. It means same size, same shape. Okay, so we were talking about congruent triangles. More specifically, we're talking about the parts of those triangles, which include the angles and the sides. And I'm going to define congruent triangles as this. Triangles of the same size and shape. So you can't have a triangle that looks like this and a triangle that looks like this. They can't be congruent to each other because they don't fit the definition. It's got to be the same size and the same shape. Those two triangles don't have the same shape. So therefore they cannot be congruent to one another. All right? All right. Let's break this down. It's not going to be hard. I promise you. I'll try to make it as painless as possible. You ready? All right. Here we go. I'm going to draw two triangles. I'm going to draw a triangle A, B, C. And I'm going to draw a triangle D, E, F. Okay? Let's talk about those two triangles. All right. In order to show congruence, you must have tick marks, or you're told that something's congruent to it. Okay, so if I wanted to show that angle A was congruent to angle D, I would put a tick mark right there. It's got one, it's got one. That shows congruence. Or I must be told that it's congruent. So you must be told that angle A is congruent to angle D. That makes it so. You cannot assume anything in geometry. Okay? So we're going to show that A is congruent to D. I'm going to show that B is congruent to E. And I'm going to show C is congruent to F. Now I'm going to write a congruency statement for each of those angles. And this is how we do this. We say that angle A is congruent to angle what? Well, that's got one tick mark. That's got one tick mark. So that would be D. Then I would say that angle B is congruent to what? Well, that's got two. That's got two. Now I would say angle C is congruent to what? Well, that's got three. That's got three. And there are my congruency statements for my angles. Okay? Now, do I show anything that says that the sides are congruent? No, I do not, but I do know the angles are congruent. And I do know down the line that if two triangles' angles are congruent, their sides are going to be congruent also, maybe. All right? So let's show this. That side's congruent to that side. How do I know that? That's 1 to 2, that's 1 to 2. Okay, that side's congruent to that side. Why? Because that's 2 to 3, that's 2 to 3. And this side right here, because it's the last, and it is 3 to 1, 3 to 1. Now I can write congruency statements for their sides. Okay, that's all we're doing right now is writing congruency statements. That's it. So I'm going to say that angle, my bad. Side AB is congruent to side what? DE. I went from 1 to 2. I'm going to go from 1 to 2 here. Okay? Does everybody understand? All right? BC is congruent to what side over here? BC is congruent to what side? EF. EF. Why is it EF and not FE? Does it make a difference? Yes, it does. This time it makes a difference. Okay? Look, I went from 2 to 3. I got to go from 2 to 3 over here. Because if you don't, I'm going to count it wrong. All right? So BC would be congruent to EF. Now I'm going to go CA is congruent to what? I went from here to here, so what am I going to do over here? I'm going to go FD. You got to go in order, and you got to do things in order now. It just isn't random stuff now. Okay? My final step when writing congruency statements is to write a congruency statement for the whole triangle. And this is how easy it is. Y'all pay attention. Here's what people do. They get all miscombobulated. That's a big word. They get all miscombobulated and say, well, the triangle ABC is congruent to triangle FED. That ain't so. It's got to match. ABC's got to match to this triangle here. And the best way to do that is look at your angles. Triangle ABC is congruent to triangle DEF. And that's your congruency statements. Okay? So now that you have done this, guess what you have proven? Beyond a shadow of a doubt, you have proven that those two triangles are congruent to one another. Okay? Now, it's all fine and dandy when it looks like this. But today you might have something that looks like this. A, B, C, D, E. That's congruent to that. Write congruency statements for the two triangles. All the angles, all the sides. Okay? And I'm going to show you a shortcut here. Okay? So pay attention. Let's do the angles because they're pretty simple. All right, here we go. Angle A. What's angle A congruent to? How many tick marks does angle A have? It has 1, right? What up there has 1? D. Watch this. Angle A is congruent to angle D. How did I know that? That's 1 tick mark, that's 1 tick mark. I know you aren't giggling at my lesson, so that must mean you have your phone out instead of paying attention. Angle B is congruent to what? Angle B's got 3 tick marks, and angle what up here's got 3 tick marks. Yeah, it did. It's the same one. It's only 1 point, so therefore it's angle B. Okay? And then I got angle C is congruent to what? C's got 2, E's got 2. Alright? Alright, watch. I'm going to break it down real simple for you. I'm going to go ahead and write the triangle congruency statement because I know what it is. I know what it's going to be. How do you know that, Coach? Well, you go down like we did here, right? Watch. Triangle ABC is congruent to what? DBE. But, Coach, you don't have any sides. Watch this. Here's the trick. You ready? I don't have to even worry about it now. I don't have to worry about nothing because guess what? I got my sides up here. Watch. Everybody watch. Watch. AB is congruent to DB. Why is that, Coach? Because they're in the same spot. Right? The angles were in the same spot, so the sides are going to be in the same spot. So I'm going to say side AB is congruent to side DB. All right, ready for the next side? BC is congruent to BE. Okay, here we go. AC is congruent to what? DE. AC is congruent to DE. Now I have all my angles, I have all my sides, I have my triangles, I have proven that those two triangles are congruent. Okay? Last thing. Don't even have to have a picture. You ain't gotta have a picture. Don't have to have a picture. Here we go. Triangle ABC is congruent to triangle XYZ. Write congruency statements to prove that those two triangles are congruent to one another. It's real simple. Everything matches, don't it? Everything matches. So here we go. What's A match up with over another one? X. Angle A is congruent to angle X. What's B correspond to?
Y.
Y. Angle B is congruent to angle Y. What's C correspond to? Z. Angle C is congruent to angle Z. Now let's do the sides. Side AB corresponds to what over there? XY. AB is congruent to XY. BC corresponds to what? YZ. Okay? And AC corresponds to what? XC. You've just proven that those two triangles are congruent without a picture. And it is correct. So, we just use the corresponding parts. That's all we do. That's all we're doing. This part right here corresponds to that part right there. That part corresponds to that part. This side corresponds to this part. We call that something in geometry, and that something is called this. Cpctc. Cpctc. You want to write that down? Cpctc. And it stands for this. Corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. And if you can't remember Cpctc, say it fast, real fast. There you go. Bless you. Oh, excuse me, I didn't spit on your head. She looked at me like, I got a mask on. I ain't gonna spit on your head. Does everybody understand? Is that hard? That's pretty simple, isn't it?